Hello and welcome to Unit 3 micro lesson. Now in this particular micro lesson I focused on advanced queries. Now there are two particular queries that I put together. The first one is instructor pay. And what I did for instructor pay was this. I went into the instructor data table, which is right here, and I added in a field called pay. And the field called pay represents how much this individual gets paid per class. So Bob Sebastian gets paid $1,450. Bob Smith gets paid $1,200. Dorknob, yes, my favorite name, $1,450, and Sally Skip-Along, because, yeah, we make names up randomly, is $1,200, and Bob Narc, because Bob apparently was my favorite name when I was making this, is $1,450. So what I then did is I created a query called instructor pay. Now instructor pay, the way it'll come out is you'll have a total pay amount, and then a number of classes. And the way I did this was I simply went to my design view. Now, before you do that, you'll notice num of class, right? Number of classes right there. Classes total, right? Taught, which is T-O, oh, gall. Blah. Should be taught. Oh, well, T-A-U-G-H-T. Anyway, and then total pay. I'm going to so correct that right now. So I go into my design view and notice this total pay and number of classes taught. T-A-U-G. Oh my God, I can't believe that. That was amazing. Anyway, so it says the total pay, right, is now, notice that I have group by, sum, and count. Now I turn on the totals here, okay? So if I turn those off, it looks like that. And then when I turn them on, it looks like that. So then what happens is you go to each one of these. The default will be group by, okay? And then I've added first name, last name, total pay, and the number of classes taught. And then what you do is you come down here, and you change it to whatever it is. Okay, so hold on. So then what happens is I change the totals to what I want to do. So the total pay turns to sum. Now if I just change this to sum and I leave it as pay, it'll come up as sum of total pay. And if I leave this as count and I leave it class num, it'll come up as count of class num. Anything that you put in front of the semicolon will then become the title of that field. So this will become the total pay. This will become the number of classes taught. So now when I run this, it'll say total pay and number of classes taught, right? The right way taught. Okay, so this is one example of a very more complex type query. Now we go on to the other query. I created another query called instructor pay of budget. So what I did is I created a budget table, right? And my budget table simply has the year and the overall budget. Okay, so here's the year and then the budget or whatever it is. So now when I come along and I take the instructor pay of budget, and I'm going to go to my design view of that, I have three tables. Now some of you are like, oh, there's no link in this table. What I did was for my budget field is I created a school year. Notice it says field, school year, budget, and group by. So it's going to group them all by the same number and I enter budget year. So I limited the budget year that is actually displayed. So in this particular case, it's only going to pull the budget out for whatever budget I put in. Then here's my budget for the particular budget year. So here's the dollar amount. So it's going to be $8,500 or whatever it is for that year. And then here's my total pay sum, which isn't different from my last one. But when we start to get even more complex, and so I have my number of classes, and then I have percentage of budget is pay divided by budget. So it takes the pay of the instructor and it divides it by the budget for that particular year. You'll notice I put sum here instead of group by. And the reason I put sum here is that if an instructor is teaching more than one class, it's going to be a greater percentage of the overall budget that their pay represents. So in my case, the one I'm looking at was, I think, 14% per but there are two classes, so those two classes had to be added together because it represents a greater percentage. Now, the reason this works without a group by field here is you're looking at the budget year, which is right here. So I can change my budget year. Now, ideally, there's some nuances of this table that you would have to redesign, but the way it works when you run it is it says enter the budget year. So let's say I put in 2016. And in 2016, my budget was $8,000. So now I've got 15% and 36.25% for the individuals that get paid $1,450, right? So that's Bob, Sebastian. These are the 3 instructors that teach 4 of the classes. Now, if I go and I go back to, let's say I want to go to my view and then run it again. I enter my budget year, do 2017. Now I'm changing my budget year so it has a different percentage, a different dollar amount that it's dividing by. So now my percent of budget comes up. Now you'll notice this is a calculated field, this percentage of budget, so it's going to change each and every time. It's not stored anywhere. It is simply calculated based off the information that's there. So I still have my budget, right? I still have my school year that displays here, and I have my total pay, just similar to my other query, the number of classes, but the percent of budget will change because it's the actual pay that the individual has divided by how much the overall budget is. So if I go on my design view here and I look back at that, it's the pay, the overall pay divided by the budget. All right. So this gives you a general idea of two specific advanced queries to kind of look through, to kind of move you along in that general direction, and a way to apply. I know there's lots of different ways to do this. I just wanted to pick you out 2 to kind of continue along our discussions and to continue along what you had to do where this is concerned. So otherwise, continue with the discussions. They're very good. Good participation, and I really enjoy it so far. So keep up the good work. Thank you for your time.